Somewhere you were sitting at a desk, there was a moment where like your significant other was there and you said, I'm a realtor today, and then you walk into a building and then now what?
This is your first day in real estate, and I am your real estate sales trainer and coach, James Festini. And this is the program that's going to teach you how to sell more real estate in less time.
I'm in there telephone prospecting, cold calling, and my goal every day since 1993 has been to speak to 100 people a day by phone. As soon as I'm done with that, I go out and knock on 100 doors a day, every day, Monday through Friday. I'm an animal that way, but that should kind of give you an idea of how much it takes in this market to generate leads. So I put together a cheesy PowerPoint just to kind of keep me on topic, because I've got a ton. As you can see, I've been in the business since 1993. And in 2009, I launched a podcast on iTunes. How many of you guys listen to podcasts by show of hands? Okay, let me backtrack. How many of you guys stopped learning as soon as you got your real estate license? How many of you guys are actively trying to learn other than what happens in the office or wherever? Do you guys like seek knowledge, continued education beyond contracts? Are you guys out there trying to figure out how to get more business, or is it just happening? Okay.
A little bit.
It's okay. It's all right. And that's, you know, the National Association of Realtors says that the average agent, I don't know how many of you know this, does anyone know what the average agent sells a year? Want to take a guess? What the average National Association, how many houses you guys sell?
1 to 2. 1.2.
2. The national average is 2 houses a year. That's poverty. Like, you don't survive on that. I don't know what the average is for this company, but the turnover rate for the real estate agents in the industry, according to studies, 87% of you who come into this market are out within a year. Now, some of you don't know this for 2 or 3 years, so you're still in the business, actively functioning, but you left a long time ago. I mean, you just keep your license active. So my struggle every day, and the thing that drives me to do as much as I do to try to reach out, is my hatred of paying for leads. I mean, this is full-time. You guys all full-time? Raise your hand, full-time? Okay, so a lot of you are part-time. We're going to pass over the full-time versus part-time and what you can do to leverage that time, but you're kind of limited as to how much you can do in that day. But between 9 a.m. and 8 p.m., I got this constant nagging in the back of my head to pick up the phone or go knock on the doors and generate leads, not suspects or prospects, whatever Zillow wants to call them. How many of you guys pay for leads to come into your universe? How many pay for? Interesting. I expect at least someone. Okay, so let me ask this.
Top Producer has a lead generation that comes with the whole monthly program. The 5 Street thing.
Right. Anybody got on that 5 Street thing? Okay. How many leads did you get yesterday?
1.
I mean, I'm sorry to call them leads. How many suspects came through that system?
1.
1?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the
You got it
majority
too?
of them are you call them back and they're BS.
Right. Right.
I did pay for leads, but I forgot what it was because I don't use it.
What's that?
I said I did pay for some leads, but I didn't use them.
Okay.
They recently called me to sign up again. I was like, well, what happened to the ones I had already? And can I still use those? So
Yeah.
they were trying to get me to sign up for some more, and I was like, you know what, no.
Okay. Yeah, we got a lot to talk. Since 2009, I have been producing content on YouTube and on iTunes. I've got over 300 videos on YouTube and over 190 audio sessions on iTunes. So to try to like condense this into that half hour and enlighten all of you to go out and hustle, I really kind of need to shift your mindset as to what's possible and get over the fear of actually going out and getting them if you expect them to come to you, or pay for them to come to you and have them be total crap, because that's what it is. The internet's not giving you leads. I have 2 ways that you're going to be able to generate these leads. So, well, yeah, the first thing is, I don't know if you noticed, if you've ever seen this term, that you've got the attention span now of a goldfish. Have you guys heard that lately? Okay, yeah, the Time magazine did a study that showed that In 2000, the average human had an attention span of 12 seconds, and now we're down to 8 seconds. So we've got the attention span of a goldfish. Right now, in order to get and capture leads and effectively get somebody from the universe to come to us, they're swiping left, swiping right, getting rid of us as fast as possible. So that's the problem a lot with these leads, is that they're jumping from place to place to place with zero attention span, and you kind of got to get them on their terms or effectively follow up, in your own timeline. So here are the facts. Since 1993, I've been telephone prospecting. In 1993, I began cold calling on just finger dialing is what I refer to it. Now there's technology. But in 1993, I would take a list on my right hand and on my left hand and a headset, and I would break 2 headsets in half and put one on my right ear and on my left ear, and I would have 2 individual lists, and I would finger dial them using peripheral vision and effectively have 2 conversations at the same time, manipulating the mute button in an attempt to try to generate more and more conversations. I still do it to this day, but now I leverage technology with platforms like Mojo and the Red X. But I want to show you what the difference is now prospecting versus what it was in 1993. In 1993, when you picked up the phone and called somebody, there would be 75%. So if you dialed 100 phone numbers. Now remember, this is before caller ID. So some of you guys don't even know what star 69 is. I said that to my kids the other day. They're like, what the hell are you talking about? Never mind. But caller ID, before caller ID, and before the do not call list. So there would be a 75% pickup ratio, meaning that if you dialed 100 numbers, probably 75 would pick up. The average time to dial a number would be 20 seconds, 4 rings, and then you would have a conversation, yes or no, and move on. So you were able to talk to more people in less time, and you didn't have to do as much prospecting. However, you were limited to technology, finger dialing, so you weren't able to produce as many calls. But from 1993 to 2003, I averaged, 6-figure income. I did the math. I'm almost crossing 1,000 houses sold since 1993 and averaging 30 sides a year from the beginning. The first half of my career to 1993 to 2003 was strictly telephone. I had 0 past clients, 0 sphere of influence, 0 friends, 0 nothing. It was just purely telephone cold calling. And it was using a script, and I'll go over that in a minute, using a script that's extremely passive so that there was 0 reluctance to pick up the phone and talk to people. And getting through there, you would be able to pound through a lot more numbers. Come 2003, the do not call list wiped out 50% of our database. Meaning, back in the day, you would be able to look up a neighborhood of 100 homes and say, I'm going to cold call or telephone prospect a territory. And let's say it was 1,000 homes. You would maybe get 60% of those phone numbers would be in a Haynes crisscross directory. I don't even know if you guys know what that is. But it was a phone book that you could go back and look at who was the number and be able to call them. Same thing with expireds for self-owners. It was there. It was the Wild West. Now, 2003 wipes out 50%. So now we're talking a neighborhood of 100 where you or neighborhood of 1,000, you had 700 numbers. The do not call list eliminates half of that. Now you have 300 phone numbers in a 1,000-person farm. So now you are no longer, you don't have the luxury anymore to say, I'm going to call into this neighborhood and dial, circle prospecting, I think they call it now. Now the terms have changed, but I call it just calling everything in that sphere. Real estate is dictated by 2 things, time and space. I'm not going to get metaphysical, but it depends on how far you're willing to go to get a listing. I'm sure if someone called from Ukaipa and said, come list me, you'll go. I'm talking about you physically being able to reach out, pick up the phone, and talk to someone in a geographical territory before you think it's too far and start disregarding them. For example, if you get a lead on the internet and they say, yeah, I'm interested in buying in Beaumont, you start discounting. You're like, that's too far. If they say I'm in Anaheim Hills, Buena Park, you're like, okay, you get this sense of motivation to handle those individuals based on the distance. So going back to the numbers on the database, in 2018, the pickup rate is now 6%.
Wow.
So just try to wrap your head around how many calls you have to make to hit my personal record of 100 spoken to conversations, you have to dial 1,200 to 1,500 phone numbers a day, because only 6% of those are picking up. I'm in compliance with the do not call list, which we'll cover in a minute. But in order to go out and physically phone call, it's a huge task. It is extremely time consuming. But again, I go back to, what else are you doing? 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. If you're part-time, I'm assuming you've got 4 hours to pull this off. And I do one-on-one coaching as a side gig, and I have products that I do. It's kind of a side hustle. The main real estate's my main real job. But when I see part-timers come in, it's totally possible to do this, but you've got to squeeze a hell of a lot more than you think in that first session that you go into. And I was talking to Stephanie before about what you guys get imprinted. Who's your daddy? Who was the first one who got you into this business? And there was a Tom and Jerry cartoon. I don't know if you guys know Tom and Jerry, but Tom and Jerry there was an episode where Tom the cat was hanging out, and then Jerry's a mouse, and an egg rolls under Tom's butt, and it hatches, and there was a duck that came out. Jerry's a mouse, Tom's a cat, and Tom sees this duck come out, and the duck thinks Tom's the mother. And Tom, the whole cartoon is, preparing a meal, cooking, boiling water, and Jerry's off to the side like, no, he's trying to eat you. Don't go with him. He's not your mother. That's how I feel. It's like an evolutionary imprint that you get from the beginning of your real estate career, that you get hatched. Something gives you this thing that makes you want to join real estate. So I'm going to ask a couple of you. What was your first impression? How the hell did you end up here? What are you doing in the business?
A friend got me into it because I knew a lot of people.
Okay.
So I owned a business for 36 years. And I was looking to kind of break away from that, but I haven't, because that's my farm.
Okay, cool. So you work around here then?
Yeah, more Fullerton, Brea.
Okay, cool. You? How did you end up in real estate?
My cousin sold real estate. She called me. You have to do this. So she's my older cousin. Every time she tells me to do something, I do it.
Okay.
So, family friends in the business.
Family friends. Okay, a show of hands. How many of you knew someone who said you should do this? Mm-hmm. Raise your hands. Okay. How many of you watched an episode on Bravo TV and thought, I could do this? Raise your hands. So I'm very curious. Then let me go back. I'm looking for the ones. How did you end up in this business?
I was young, investing in my 20s, and ended up with a group that was advertised on the radio, and went with them, and she ended up ripping everybody off, contractors, judges, all of us, and I don't know if she ever found her, but I decided I don't want to do that. I want to do something legitimate with real estate. And
okay.
So that's when I researched it and found the best thing was getting licensed.
All right. So when you first got your real estate license, and then you signed up, and then you probably changed your Facebook status or your Instagram, and now you're a realtor. Now what? Like the day after, what happened? I'm sure either you were here or somewhere else. At some point you ended up with a flyer, or you were working through YouTube, or maybe a pod. Somewhere you were sitting at a desk, there was a moment where like your significant other was there, and you said, I'm a realtor today, and then you walk into a building, and then now that has been my whole, the last 10 years worth of work. Is not because you can go to the gurus that are out there, you know them, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Irishman. They're out there, but they talk about the after now what, which doesn't, my space doesn't work in that, because that's in a place far, far away in time, when you're looking at more month at the end of the money, and you're thinking to yourself, I need to sell now. Like you see the big paycheck, but you don't see, like, it's all just this very short-sighted day-to-day activity. So even my podcast is called Your First Day in Real Estate, even if it's not, because every day you got to get up and say, I got 0. I don't care if I got 20 listings or I have none. This real estate industry, as you start, you've probably got about 5 years of what I'm doing, unless you're popular, you know someone, or you got some like in, the people who you get imprinted by, or the impression that you get, or these top producers that you're looking at, when they're mega producers, they're an anomaly. They're a unicorn. You can't compare to them. There's always something when you look behind the curtain, lift the kimono, you'll see there's something else that got them there that you're not going to do. So you've got to find your own path, find your own way. If it's a niche or if it's some sort of stroke of luck, you've got to take action now until whatever that finds you. And I've done this. In 1993, I was working in Anaheim Hills. Then I I got married, moved to Whittier, got divorced, moved back to Huntington Beach. Then I got married again, moved to Anaheim. Then I moved to the Inland Empire, and then I came back here in 2016. So my biggest mistake in this business is not planting my roots. Had I stayed in Anaheim Hills for the 25 years I've been doing this, there's no doubt in my mind I would be the #1 agent in Orange County. No doubt about it. But I kept having to reinvent myself, making these same mistakes. This is the last time I'm doing it. In 2016, when I moved from the Inland Empire as the #1 agent in a city where everybody knows me, to coming here, nobody knows me here. In 2016, I was nothing. Like, I came into this office with 0 prospects, 0 past clients. Fortunately, I had done so much business over there that I continue to get maybe 10 listings a year from that source, but I'm going to slowly fade as somebody there, and I'm reinventing myself here. Can I compete and compare myself to, which I started right around the same time. I was neck and neck with her in 1993. My parents were also in the business back in the day, where she stayed. I bounced around. Had I been there, this would be my game. So can I compare myself to those big? No, they have planted a root 20 years deep and spent millions of dollars on bringing themselves to that place. You as a brand new agent, or seasoned agent, you've got about 5 years of doing something at high levels. This is 2018. 1993, you could wing it, and by osmosis and proximity, you can get business. All the way up until 2006, the market turned, shit hit the fan. Now you're back here. This is the greatest market you're ever going to see again. Are you squeezing every possible second into the now what? I'm getting off track, guys. This is so much to learn here. So anyhow, 25% of my business came from prospecting. When I became a #1 agent out in Lake Elsinore in the Inland Empire, 25% of my business came from prospecting, because I had done so much for 6 or 7 years that now I didn't have to call. I didn't have to pick up the phone. So when I show you prospecting, it's not something you're going to do for the rest of your career unless you screw up and move. You're going to start building a foundation and doing everything you can right now to build a book of business, so that at some point you're going to have this tipping point where people start calling and saying, hey, you've been calling me, hey, you've been sending my letters, hey, I see your signs everywhere. There's a moment where popularity takes over, and there's this thing I call a sphere of recognition, which is a combination of a sphere of influence, a combination of notoriety, a combination of friends, family, where people start to say, there's this guy and I see him, there's this gal and she's everywhere. That's going to take me probably about 5 years in this city. I'm already going into my 3rd year, and I went out door knocking last night, and when I'm at the door, I'll introduce myself. My name's James Festini, and with 5 conversations, 2 of them said, oh, you're the guy with the van. I'm just like, yes. And it didn't take very long to get to that point. Are they calling me and saying, come list me? No, I'm realistic, I'm patient, I have an expectation set up. So 25%, at some point you're going to get to that point where you're going to get there, but right now what? 100% of my business right now is coming from telephone prospecting, cold calling, door knocking. I want to encourage you guys to change your mindset about it, and what the lead is versus a prospect versus a suspect. Zillow right now says that they'll sell you leads. From this moment forward, do not call an internet inquiry a lead. That is like the last thing they are. They are above the phone book. They are a suspect. Most of the time, these people, like you've seen, they're checking up on their ex-wife's house. They're accidentally clicked something, this Facebook advertising. And don't get me wrong, I spend a couple bucks on Zillow. I spend a couple bucks on Facebook ads. Do they work to my expectation? Probably not. The people who you're seeing spending money on these Zillow, I don't know if you've been approached by Zillow, do you know how much it costs to be on that rotation of internet suspects?
A lot.
Like, anyone want to throw a number?
3,000 a month.
3,000 a month. Yeah, that's just to put yourself in a rotation of 20 other agents. There was a study, and we saw it in that, I wish I would have screen grabbed it. Did you guys go to that mariachi thing when they announced the brand logo change? Anybody? There was I think it's called a blotter chart. Stephanie, I hope you can find that for me because I talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
But they talk about the amount of leads generated online in 2006 and then versus the amount of homes sold in 2006. And there was this, this balance. I mean, there was way more leads than homes sold. But now the internet has gotten so good at generating suspects, prospects, inquiries, not leads. I still say it. Suspects. Now in 2018, the amount of suspects generated who click on something on the internet versus homes sold is way out of proportion. So now they can promise you more, but it's more crap, and they're paying more because the inventory is low and there's very little conversion. So you've got to understand the difference between a prospect, a suspect, and a lead. And for me, I've defined a prospect, someone who can say yes, but maybe doesn't. Meaning you pick up the phone or you meet someone and they're thinking of buying or selling, and that is the decision maker. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but they're not a lead yet. They're just a prospect, meaning that there's something there, maybe you can convert it, maybe you don't. And then a lead is someone who says maybe. And there's a very thick line between a maybe and maybe not, and having the authority to do it. So my goal every day when I'm doing that prospecting, 100 contacts a day, is I'm doing massive amounts of telephone calls with, that's the next slide, with almost a psychic ability to read into and listen into the person on the other line, considering that 8-second attention span and how much they might be into and whether they're driving, whether they're on their phone. The numbers that you have to do in order to prospect. Let me back up. Have any of you guys ever cold called? Door knocked? Raise your hand. Okay, that's good to know. I'm assuming you're here because you're curious about picking up the phone and generating leads on your own terms. That like at 9 a.m. you're thinking, okay, now what? Maybe I could call. And then you end up on YouTube, and then YouTube sucks you down that vacuum, and then you're watching like Dr. Pimple Popper or some cat videos. If you're laughing, you know where you went. Okay, so you want to know by the numbers. I think I'm going to go through a couple of the most popular questions. Funny thing is that when I do this live telephone prospecting by the phone and door knocking, I have two phones here, because I'm double dialing. But I take this phone right here, and I do this when I'm out door knocking, and I go live on YouTube. So I'm taking, several people with me out door knocking as I'm working with one app and sharing with you this experience every day. So maybe tonight I'll go door knocking. If you go to YouTube, you'll be there and you'll be looking up my nose, and it's not, it's not an entertainment channel because it's repetitious boredom at its finest. Along with my cold calling, I have 2 cameras mounted on my monitor where I'm sharing this on Facebook. Like, people are watching me call all day. So if you're curious to see what the hell I'm doing, just go to Facebook, search James Festini's Mafia, and I'll let you in.
Mafia?
Hey, I'm Italian. It was either that or just James Festini. But it's a bunch of people that sit there, and it's kind of like this call buddy, like a prospecting session where we're all in this together. And a lot of people, when they come into the telephone prospecting or door knocking, there's this fear of, I don't know, maybe you get yelled at, maybe you're not compliant. Once you get past that initial fear, it's usually not knowing what to say or afraid of nothing happening. I mean, what are you afraid of if you pick up the phone and call? Are you afraid?
I'm just afraid of not knowing how to respond.
Perfect. Give me your fear. Are you afraid of calling? Door knocking?
Door knocking.
Okay. Why are you afraid of door knocking versus cold calling?
Well, I haven't done that.
Okay. You've never cold called?
No.
Okay.
I went door knock.
Okay. Well, I'll let you know right now, pound for pound, door knocking is far better for lead generation. I'll generate a bona fide listing lead every hour I go out there. Now, whether or not I can convert them is different, but they are a lead. I will get a name, a number, and an email address every hour I'm at the door. So it's far better. For the telephone, by the numbers, how many doors does it take? Everyone always asks this question. How many doors does it take to get a listing? And once you start into this process, there's going to be a snowball effect that you can never go back to the original snowflake that set it off, because you've been doing this so long that, yeah, you could probably trace it to an original call, but if you followed up, if you've dropped emails, if you sent letters, it's no longer because of that initial call, it's because of your follow-up. So you can't say how many doors, no, it's how many doors plus. It's like going back and saying, how did you get those six-packs abs? And like, well, in 2015 I did like 25 sit-ups, and that's the moment where it happened, and everything else was, it all like builds up into this snowball effect.
This episode is brought to you by MojoSells.com. Expireds for sell by owners and prospecting solutions along with DNC compliance. It is my CRM of choice because I can set up emails and letters and follow-up campaigns to follow up more efficiently with the leads that I generate. Go to MojoSells.com and make sure you tell them Festini sent you. This episode is also brought to you by Spodio, the perfect door knock companion. Download the Spodio app today. You want more knowledge? Please find me anywhere you consume content. On YouTube, go to James Festini. If you want to listen to my content on iTunes, please leave me a 5-star review. Join the Festini Mafia at jamesfestini.com/training. There you'll find all of my products and information. If you like to make money, get back to work.